Episode 10, Trial by Fire. The subbase never knew silence for long. The oaths were barely dry when the first impact shook the walls. Dust poured from the ceiling. Lights flickered, one by one snapping to red. "Bombardment!" Hayes shouted. The floor heaved again. Deeper this time. Concrete, cracked, like brittle bone. Somewhere above, the city roared as another barrage came down. "They found us," Kane growled, sapphire eyes narrowing. Lira rose, crimson gaze glinting with something that looked too much like delight. Good. I was getting bored. The next blast wasn't distant. It tore straight through the eastern wall, vomiting dust and flame. Soldiers staggered back, coughing, rifles raised. Through the haze came shapes. Tall, jagged, armored in obsidian plates. Xarthans, pouring in on a tide of green-lit blades. "Positions!" Everlyn's voice cut through the panic, steady as steel. The wolves moved. Kane slammed into the breach, claws carving through the first intruder like paper. Lira darted low, fast as a whisper, her blades tearing tendons before the enemy even knew where she was. The soldiers fired in staggered bursts, rounds sparking against alien armor. Some held the line, others faltered. Kaelin froze. The new fire in her veins screamed for release, but her body hesitated. Human memory fighting wolf instinct. She stood rooted as a Xarthan surged toward her, blade raised high. "Move!" Hayes bellowed. The strike came down, but Kaelin's claws came up. She caught the alien's arm, strength shocking even herself. With a cry, half snarl, half terror, she dragged her claws down its chest. Armor split. Black ichor sprayed across her face. The creature crumpled, twitching. Kaelin stared at her own hands, trembling. I killed it." Lira's laugh cut sharp through the din. "Took you long enough." Another wave surged through the breach. Kaelin didn't wait this time. She roared, throwing herself at them, movements messy but savage. She ripped, tore, stumbled, and rose again, blood streaking her hair, her face, her claws. Soldiers watched in stunned silence as the fragile private they'd known hours ago became something else entirely. Fierce, feral, unbreakable. Everlyn struck down a Xarthan with a sweep of her claws and barked across the chamber. "Hold the line!" "They bleed, like we do." Kane tore through another, voice booming. "Stay behind the wolves!" Minutes stretched like hours. Then, finally, the tide broke. The last Xarthan fell, its death rattle a hiss of glass scraping stone. Silence, broken only by ragged breathing and the drip of ichor. The sub-base was a ruin now, half collapsed and choking with smoke. Soldiers slumped against walls, exhausted but alive. Kaelin stood in the wreckage, chest heaving, eyes burning, crimson. She wiped ichor from her mouth and let out a breathless laugh. Jagged, too loud, too alive. Everlyn's gaze found her. "You've made your choice, Private." No turning back, Kaelin grinned through blood and dust. "Didn't plan to." Lira's smirk curved sharp. "She's learning." Everlyn turned back to the soldiers. "We can't hold this ground. Not forever. But tonight, we held it long enough." Kane's sapphire eyes glinted in the firelight. "And next time, Alpha, we don't wait for them to knock." Episode 11. The Extraction. The sub-base was more tomb than shelter now. Walls cracked, ceilings leaking dust. The stench of smoke clinging like regret. What survived of it wouldn't last another night. Everlyn ordered the extraction. Soldiers moved in ragged lines, ushering civilians through narrow tunnels lit by guttering lamps. Children clung to their mothers, eyes wide, their whispers drowned out by the scrape of boots and the groan of collapsing steel. Kane walked point, sapphire eyes cutting the dark, every step like a promise. Lira flanked the rear, gaze sharp, daring anything to follow. Kaelin couldn't be still. She paced the chamber like a caged fire, claws flexing, eyes burning too bright. The blood was still new in her veins, screaming for release. She snapped at soldiers who stumbled, barked orders that weren't hers to give. One private muttered, "She's losing it." Too loud. Kaelin turned on him, teeth flashing, and the man went pale, retreating quick. Everlyn watched. She didn't speak yet. She waited, measured. Kaelin's pacing grew tighter, sharper. Her crimson gaze lifted and locked onto Everlyn. For a heartbeat too long, she didn't look away. Shoulders squared, breath heavy. The room stilled. It wasn't words, but it was close enough. A challenge. Everlyn's golden eyes flared faintly, calm as a storm about to break. She didn't rise, didn't snarl, just let the weight of her gaze answer. Then, a hand. Lira stepped from the shadows, placed her palm on Kaelin's shoulder. Not gentle. Firm. Claiming. "Not yet," Lira whispered. Her voice was silk over steel. Kaelin's jaw tightened. Her claws dug crescents into her palms. Then, with a sharp breath, she looked away. The moment cracked. The air released. Everlyn let it pass without comment. Instead, she turned to the soldiers, her voice carrying steady authority. "We've held long enough. Now we move. Every step from here is survival, but it's also proof. Proof that we don't run to hide. We run to strike again." The soldiers tightened their grips on rifles. Murmurs steadied into silence. Kane rumbled low, sapphire gaze sweeping the tunnel mouth. "They'll follow." "They'd better," Lira muttered, eyes still on Kaelin. "Or she'll eat them before the Xarthans do." Kaelin managed a crooked grin, breathless but defiant. "I'll keep up." Everlyn's eyes burned gold as she turned toward the dark tunnel ahead. "See that you do. Extraction first. Then we take the fight back to them." The pack moved. Wolves and soldiers, carrying the wounded and the weary, leaving the broken sub-base behind. The tunnels swallowed them, but not their resolve. Above, the city smoldered. And somewhere in the night, Xarthan eyes watched, patient and hungry. Episode 12, Learning the Pack. The tunnels spat them out into the night, a ragged stream of soldiers and civilians coughing dust, stumbling into streets that glowed with fire. The city above burned quiet, its ruins whispering smoke into the stars. Everlyn was first from the tunnel, blonde hair streaked with soot, golden eyes dimmed but steady. Her uniform was torn, stained, but she carried herself like command hadn't cracked with the walls. Kane followed, still in wolf form at the head of the column, sapphire eyes cutting the dark. Behind them came Lira, in her human shape again, short, sharp, her red-streaked hair falling wild around her face. And Kaelin, blonde and beautiful, crimson eyes still raw with their new fire. She stayed at Lira's side, shoulders stiff, trying to stand taller than her trembling would allow. The soldiers spilled out, weapons tight in their hands. They murmured at the sight of Kaelin, some recoiling, some staring. Too long, as if unsure if she was blessing or curse. Kaelin's jaw tightened. She flexed her hands, staring at her own nails like she expected claws. "Why do they look at me like that?" she whispered. "Because the girl they knew didn't walk out of that tunnel," Lira answered. Her voice was cool, edged. "What stands here now is mine." Kaelin swallowed, then nodded. "Then I'll learn." Lira smirked faintly. "Good. Watch. Listen. Bite." When I tell you Everlyn turned, scanning the column, her voice sharp enough to quiet the muttering. Stay tight. We head east. There's cover near the river. Move fast before they send patrols to box us, and Corporal Hayes pushed forward, face pale and streaked with dust. Captain, these people can't keep this pace. They'll collapse before dawn. Everlyn's golden eyes caught his. Then they collapse moving. Or they die standing still. Those are the choices. The words hit like stone. No one argued. Kane growled, still in wolf form, gaze raking the horizon. Scouts. 3, maybe 4. They're keeping distance. Lira tilted her head, red streaks catching firelight. Let them watch. Wolves travel louder than rumors. Kaelin almost snapped a reply, but stopped. She looked at Lira, caught the sharpness of her gaze, and held her tongue. She stayed close, pace matching, her crimson eyes lowered, but not defeated. Everlyn noted it without turning her head, the girl's wildness settling, piece by piece. Not tamed, not yet, but learning. She faced forward again, her voice cutting through the dark. This isn't retreat. It's repositioning. Tonight, we survive. Tomorrow. Her eyes burned faint gold, a promise in the ruin. Tomorrow, we bite first. The column moved on, wolves and soldiers, their shadows long in the glow of a broken city. And beside Lira, Kaelin kept her step, her place beginning to take shape in the pack. Episode 13, The Horde. The ground trembled before they saw it. Then the mountain's shadow broke, and the Xarthans came. Not a patrol, not a squad, a horde. Dozens, maybe hundreds, armored in obsidian plates, weapons glowing with green fire. Their march shook loose stone from the cliffs as they poured down into the valley like a black tide. "Ruins!" Everlyn snapped. The order cracked like a whip. Soldiers scrambled, pulling civilians into the shattered husks of buildings that still stood against the skyline. Kane moved to cover their retreat, claws dragging furrows into the stone. Lira pulled Kaelin down a narrow passage, their breath harsh, their eyes never leaving the advancing swarm. The horde spread wide across the valley floor, glowing eyes lighting the night like a storm of broken glass. And at the front, tall and cruel, stood the commander. His crystalline voice carried unnaturally, shivering through the ruins. "Moon touched," he called. "You bleed, you hide, you howl. But you are not legion. You are not endless. And soon, you are nothing." The words scraped across the stone, sharp enough to cut resolve. Kane pressed close to Everlyn, his human form sweating, his sapphire eyes grim. "Alpha," he said quietly. "I can't hold them. Not this many. There's not enough of us for a heartbeat." Silence. Just the breathing of the pack, the weight of fear pressing down. Then, Kaelin stepped forward. Not pacing now. Not defiant. She bowed her head low before Everlyn, crimson eyes dimmed in deference. Episode 14. Desperate Measures. "Alpha," she said, voice trembling but firm. "Then make more of us. The soldiers, the civilians. Turn them. With wolves at your back, you'd have an army." A hush. Soldiers stared. The idea sat between them like a live wire. Lira's smirk broke it. She stepped forward, red-streaked hair wild, eyes gleaming. "Not a bad idea," she said, voice sharp with amusement and hunger. "Desperate times, desperate measures." She chuckled low, dark. "An army that doesn't flinch. I'd like to see that." Kane's voice cut in then, soft, but heavy. He stepped toward her, his weariness clear, not anger, but warning. "You're playing with fire, Lira." The words settled over the ruins like dust. Every eye turned to Everlyn. Soldiers. Wolves. Even Kaelin. Her crimson gaze locked on her Alpha, waiting. Everlyn stood silent, golden eyes burning faint, caught between a rock and a hard place. Her gaze fixed on Kalen, and the moment held. Episode 15. The Choice. The ruins shook as the horde pressed closer, a tide of steel and glowing blades pouring down from the mountain. Their chant carried on the night air, sharp and unnatural, like glass breaking in rhythm. Inside the shadows of the broken walls, silence held tighter than any weapon. Kalen's words still hung between them. Lira's smirk lingered like a dare. Kane's warning sat heavy in the air, and every soldier's eyes were on Everlyn. Then one stepped forward, hands trembling, voice raw. "Captain, if it gives us a chance, I'll do it." Another followed, jaw clenched. "Better teeth than graves." A murmur spread, half fear, half resolve. Soldiers glancing at one another, some backing away, others stepping closer to the wolves. Desperation dressed itself as courage. Kane growled low, uneasy. Lira just laughed softly, crimson eyes glinting with hunger. "See? Fire catches quick." Everlyn lifted a hand, silencing them all. Her gaze swept the soldiers, steady and unflinching. "Those who want no part of this, you leave now. You'll live as you are, or you won't live at all. But you'll choose it." A young soldier swallowed hard. "And the civilians?" Everlyn turned to Hayes, her voice sharp. "Corporal, take them. Every woman, every child, every man who refuses. Get them out." Now Hayes hesitated, then saluted with a grim nod. He began gathering the civilians, shepherding them toward a rear tunnel, their faces pale, some crying, some too numb to speak. The ones who stayed behind stared at Everlyn, waiting. The sound of the horde grew louder, closer, the commander's shadow stretching long across the valley. Everlyn's golden eyes burned brighter, catching the light of the oncoming army. She drew in a slow breath, the silence heavy with her choice. At last, her voice rang out, firm, final. "Do it." The word cut through the ruins like a blade. And for the first time, the soldiers knew what it meant to be chosen. Episode 16. The Path Chosen. Do it. The command struck like a hammer. Kane moved first, sapphire eyes blazing as he seized a soldier and bit deep. The man's scream cracked the night, body convulsing as black fire tore through his veins. Lira followed, merciless and precise, dragging another close, crimson eyes lit with hunger. The ruins drowned in chaos. Soldiers writhed, their cries mixing with the crack of bones and the stench of blood. The turning was no blessing. It was a storm, ripping men apart, to rebuild them into something else. Kalen stepped forward, crimson eyes burning, claws twitching with need. She reached for a soldier. Everlyn's hand snapped around her wrist. "Not you," the Alpha said, voice flat with command. Kalen's protest died on her tongue. She bowed her head and stepped back, shame and restraint warring in her chest. Then it happened. One half-turned soldier staggered upright, eyes wild, limbs shaking as claws burst through split skin. His breath came ragged, snarling, instincts tearing loose. He lurched forward, toward Everlyn. Kalen moved first. She planted herself between them, shoulders squared, crimson eyes blazing. With a snarl, she shoved him back hard, her growl shaking the stone. The soldier collapsed, writhing as the change finished consuming him. Kalen stood over him, chest heaving, gaze sharp. Her voice was low, edged with fire. "You don't go near her. None of you. She's Alpha. You kneel, or you fall." The newborns froze, fear and awe cutting through their frenzy. Even Kane and Lira exchanged a glance. The young wolf had found her teeth in the right place at last. When the last scream faded, silence settled over the ruins. A dozen wolves crouched, trembling in the dark, blood slick on their jaws, eyes glowing with new fire. And all of them turned toward Everlyn. Everlyn stepped forward, her golden eyes burning brighter. "You've chosen your path." Then she changed. Bones cracked, flesh split, golden fire flooding the ruin. The Alpha stood revealed, terrible, radiant, untouchable. The newborn wolves dropped to their knees as one. Not ordered, not forced. Instinct. Reverence. Everlyn roared, and the sound tore through the night. From the valley below, the Xarthans answered. Crystalline voices shrieking. So close now the dark, itself, trembled. The path was chosen. The Alpha had claimed them. And war was coming. Episode 17, The Ambush. The Xarthans broke through the outer wall with a hiss of plasma and shattered stone. They spilled into the ruins, blades glowing, eyes burning like fractured glass. They found only silence. Blood streaked the floor, smeared across the walls. But no bodies, no cries, no movement. The ruin was hollow, its shadows too deep, its quiet too sharp. One of them tilted his head, voice crystalline, mocking. They ran. Another stepped closer, blade humming low. His tone was sharper, uneasy. No, something's wrong. That was when they heard it. A growl. Low. Predatory. They looked up. Perched in the beams above, golden eyes burned through the dark. Everlyn crouched, muscles coiled. The Alpha waiting like a blade, held in the dark. She pounced. Her claws tore the first Xarthan down, his weapon clattering against stone as his scream cut short. Blood sprayed across the rubble. Then the ruins came alive. Walls burst as rubble shifted, shadows leaping forth. The newborn wolves crashed into the open, some clumsy, some stumbling into walls, but all feral with new strength. Their growls filled the chamber, raw and wild. The Xarthans staggered, their formation shattered. What they thought was empty ground was suddenly teeth and claws, shadows turned to predators. And at the heart of it, Everlyn rose from the kill, her golden gaze cutting through dust and fire. "Now!" she snarled. The pack answered as one. Episode 18, The Challenge. The commander's rage split the night. His arm swept forward, and the heavy weapon shrieked, a blast that tore stone apart, splitting the ruins down their spine. The world buckled. Wolves and soldiers scattered. Kane and Kalen hit hard on the far side, stone cutting their skin. Dust filled their lungs, fire raining down around them. Kane staggered upright, helping Kalen to her feet. Then it hit them. Not sound, not sight, but presence. Everlyn's voice, inside them. Command, clear and sharp as a blade. Flank them. Kalen's eyes went wide, her breath catching. "She's in our heads." Kane's lips peeled back, sapphire eyes alight. A savage grin split his face. "Good. Now we hunt her way." They vanished into the smoke, circling wide. On the other side, Lira pulled the newborn wolves into cover, plasma fire shredding stone around them. One stumbled, green and raw, a slab of rubble glancing off his back. He moaned, crumpling. Lyra's hand shot out, yanking him upright. She snarled into his face, crimson eyes blazing. "Move or die, pup." The young wolf's fear snapped into raw instinct. He ran, and the others followed. The bombardment slowed. Dust thickened. The air was choked with silence. And through it, Everlyn stepped forward. Her blonde hair was matted with ash, her uniform torn, but her golden eyes blazed steady, molten with fury. Each stride carried through the smoke like a drumbeat. She raised her chin, claws flexing at her sides, and her voice cracked the ruin. "Commander," she roared, "face me." 1-to-1. A challenge. The alien horde stilled. The commander tilted his head. crystalline mask glinting in the firelight. His voice broke the air like shattering glass. Moon touched, daring to stand. He studied her, cold and calculating, as the ruin held its breath. And in the shadows, Kane and Kalen moved, circling, waiting to strike. Episode 19, The Gambit Ends in Blood. The commander's blade screeched against Everlyn's claws, sparks raining as he pressed her down to one knee. His laughter split the air, sharp and glassy. "You are prey. You fall." Alpha Everlyn staggered, blood streaking her lip. To the horde, it looked like he was breaking her. To her pack, hidden in smoke and stone, it was bait. Kane and Kalen flanked wide, eyes burning sapphire and crimson. Lira crouched with the newborns, her voice a hiss. "Wait! Wait!" For her mark. The commander loomed above Everlyn, crystalline mask gleaming. His blade swung down, and she caught it. Her claws locked tight, golden fire blazing in her eyes. The snarl that ripped from her throat shook the stone. She surged upward, driving him back. Then she stopped pretending. Her fist smashed into his mask once, twice, 3 times. Crystal cracked. His laugh broke. She hammered him across the ruins, blow after blow, until his blade tumbled from his grip and he staggered, reeling. The horde froze. Everlyn stood over him, bloodied, golden eyes burning like a storm. She raised her hand and signaled. Lira shot forward, crimson eyes blazing. Her claws flashed clean through, and the commander's head hit the ground with a dull, final thud. His body crumpled after, glass without its frame. Silence. A heartbeat. Then the ruins erupted. Kane, Kalen, and the newborn wolves burst from cover, howls splitting the night. They crashed into the horde like a storm of teeth and fury. Shadows became predators. Blood sprayed the walls. The Xarthans faltered. Formation shattered. Their commander gone. Wolves tore through them. Clumsy, raw, savage, but unstoppable. Everlyn roared above it all, standing tall over the commander's corpse. Her voice rolled like thunder, golden fire burning through smoke and ruin. Her pack answered. Together, their howls rose, a chorus of defiance that drowned out the crystalline screams of the dying horde. The night was theirs.